The 1998 box office was big on genre movies. Armageddon was the highest grossing film of the year. Ed Harris was the god of Jim Carrey's, life. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan fell in love through email. What? Seriously though, there was a lot of movies with monsters and talking bugs and things blowing up in space. And 20 years ago, in the midst of the glut of all that science fiction, the cast of Star Trek: The Next Generation returned for the 9th feature-length film of the Trek oeuvre. A movie that features Doc Ock's wife, the guy who killed Mozart, jokes about both butts and boobs, and Gilbert and Sullivan.
A British tar is a soaring soul, as free as a mountain bird. His energetic fist should be ready to resist a dictatorial word. Sing, Wolf, sing.
Super classy. Here's everything there is to know about Star Trek: Insurrection. After a rocky start with Star Trek Generations in 1994, the TNG crew had a massive movie hit in 1996 with Star Trek: First Contact. And Paramount was thinking it would be nice if they could, make even more money. And they remembered that their biggest Trek success actually came not from the serious Spock killing Wrath of Khan, but from the largely comedic Star Trek: The Voyage Home.
There'll be whales here!
So they concluded that after fighting the Borg, it was time for the crew of the Enterprise E to find their own nuclear vessels / Spock nerve pinches and 80s punk / double dumbass on you light-hearted romp.
Why don't you watch where you're going, you dumbass? Well, double dumbass on you!
But before we get to all the memes I wish Insurrection had generated, we have to talk about the script. And by script, I mean scripts, because there were a lot of them on the road to the movie we actually got. Michael Piller, who you know as the script supervisor for TNG from season 3 onward, and the reason why the show became the classic it is today, was hired to write Star Trek IX. But before the script was even started, Trek producer Rick Berman had some ideas that never made it to the page. One idea was for Picard to be kidnapped and replaced with an imposter. Piller was not interested in that concept since it would have meant Picard wouldn't actually be the star for most of the movie. Also, guys, we already did this exact plot in the episode Allegiance.
You'll find something new in this one.
Commander, what's the captain up to? That's not the captain I know.
And I guess they were really passionate about the duplicard, get it? Because they basically brought the idea back in Star Trek Nemesis.
The same noble Picard blood runs through our veins. So look in the mirror. See yourself.
Berman also had an idea for a movie starring Data's evil twin brother Lore, and Jonathan Frakes, who was directing again, wanted John Delancey to return as Q. None of those ideas made it through the transporter buffer, though. Bummer. The first few drafts of Star Trek, the one that would eventually be called Insurrection, were called Star Trek Stardust, so named after the Hoagie Carmichael song. And oh yeah, nothing says Star Trek like some dude whistling. These drafts feature Romulans as the protagonists, eternally youthful aliens, and Picard resigning from Starfleet. All drafts feature a crew member betraying Picard, sometimes it's Data, sometimes Data dies, and all of them feature a part of space dubbed the Briar Patch. And everything except that last part and the Fountain of Youth idea were scrubbed. Sorry, Romulans. At least you still got those boxy shoulder pads. Basically, Sir Patrick Stewart was a producer on the film and got to have a say in how the script turned out. And he, along with some studio heads, thought the film felt, survey says, too much like a TV episode. Which is funny because part of the plot of the final version of the film involves the Fountain of Youth aliens, the Baku, being moved off-planet without their knowledge through the use of a holodeck. And that is literally the plot of a TNG episode called Homeward, starring Worf's brother. His other brother. Anyway, the Data portrays Picard concept got altered a little and was placed at the front of the movie and also made into a musical for some reason.
His bosom should heave, and his heart should glow, and his fist be ever ready for a knockdown blow.
Data does not get killed, but the writers did leave a note in Brent Spiner's script that read, "Kill you later," which they then did in Star Trek Nemesis. Wait, I get notes like that in my scripts all the time. Is that bad? Another major change to the plot was the addition of Anej, who would play a love interest for Picard. That was a change made for peace too, because I guess Beverly Crusher wasn't good enough for Picard anymore? Gosh, tough break, Bev. I still love you. Let's take a moment to consider some of the movie titles we almost had. Star Trek IX was almost called Star Trek Where Time Stands Still, Star Trek Forever, Star Trek Beyond Paradise, Star Trek Revolution, Star Trek Rebellion, Star Trek High Treason, and Star Trek Act of Treason, along with about 20 other titles. But instead of calling it Star Trek Insurrection, they probably should have called it Star Trek Unsuccessful. It's the best joke I could come up with. Because, gosh, literally no one was happy with how it turned out. You might have already gleaned this, but there were way too many cooks in the kitchen. And so the movie became an example of everyone compromising and nobody getting what they really wanted. Michael Piller wanted to make a movie that was basically Heart of Darkness in space. Stewart wanted to have Picard hook up with a hot immortal woman, but it was cut. And Marina Sirtis, who represented the audience, fell asleep at the premiere. Same, Marina. Same. Yes, it's true, Trek fans were not happy. The hardest of hardcores wanted Insurrection to link up with the current plot of Deep Space Nine, but the Dominion War, which was raging at that point throughout the Federation, only barely squeezed in a mention. A scene featuring DS9 characters Rom and Quark was cut, as was any mention of the fact that Worf's wife, Jadzia, had literally just died. And of course, people who love when Picard takes the moral high ground were confused because he doesn't really have it in Insurrection. It turns out the Baku aren't even native to the Briar Patch, so why is it they can't be moved again? Even Patrick Stewart didn't agree with Picard on that one.
Jean-Luc, we're only moving 600 people.
How many people does it take, Admiral, before it becomes wrong?
At least F. Murray Abraham, who played Ruafu, enjoyed wearing his latex mask, as evidenced by the epic scenery chewing he does every time he's on screen.
I won't need any more genetic manipulation if our Federation friends will allow us to complete this mission.
But for everybody else, it was a step down from First Contact, and it showed. Insurrection made over $30 million less at the box office than First Contact.
No!
However, I promised you some memeable things that came out of Star Trek Insurrection, and as a Star Trek fan that can find good in anything Star Trek, I aim to deliver. So here are the top 3 things from Insurrection that deserve to exist in the cultural consciousness forever. Memeable thing number 1. Riker shaves his beard. I know I don't like it either, nobody does. But that dark, heinous action did generate one great scene where Data asks to feel Riker's face, and Riker says,
"Smooth as an android's bottom, eh, Data?"
First of all, Data's response is priceless. Second of all, whenever I shave, I say, "Smoother than an android's bottom." And you should too, because that's hilarious. In fact, I just shaved. Does anybody want to bite like an android's butt?
May I?
Anyway, memeable thing number 2. So the Fountain of Youth planet, everyone goes there, starts to get younger, and for some reason, the script expresses this by calling for Crusher and Troy to acknowledge very specifically that their boobs have started to firm up. That's the actual line. And then Data says that same line to Worf.
I have an odd craving for the blood of a live Kolar beast. This environment must be affecting me again.
And have you noticed how your boobs have started to firm up?
Gosh, but anytime anyone talks about using skin treatments or laser surgeries or whatever in order to prevent the inevitable march of time, I always want to say, and have you noticed your boobs have started to firm up? I don't know. Sometimes you just have to laugh at the inevitable oblivion we're all headed towards. And also at future space people saying the word boobs, because that's ridiculous. And memeable thing number 3. That time Data says, in the event of a water landing, I have been designed to serve as a flotation device. I don't know why, but the moment he actually starts to float and the accompanying Foley work is just...
In the event of a water landing, I have been designed to serve as a flotation device.
Whenever someone you know needs help, just tell them you're designed to serve as a flotation device. It's gonna catch on, I promise. And that's it. Star Trek Insurrection. Now you know it all. Go forth, tell people to call their really bad pimples gorches.
Oh, well, it's hardly noticeable.
Be a flotation device for all those in need, and may your face be ever as smooth as an android's bottom. Computer, end program.